Now Kashmir become a political laboratory of BJP. 370 gone, divided. Now through a movie, Kashmir Files.
I was there in Kashmir last week for the party state conference. And I mean, to have the CPIM state conference in Srinagar, in the Lal Chowk, the historical Lal Chowk, was itself quite an achievement with all the sort of enthusiasm. But the people of Kashmir are determined to fight it out. Of course, the Kashmir Files shows only one aspect of the reality. In the Srinagar district, the Srinagar Superintendent of Police has put out official figures of the deaths under militancy since 1990 in a reply to an RTI in December last year. That was dated. And what does it say? 89 Kashmiri Pandits have been killed by this militancy since 1990, and 1,635 people belonging to other faiths, mostly Muslim because the population, have been killed. So it's not that, you see, the agony of the Kashmiri Pandits, we always, I mean, we've understood, we've expressed the solidarity, we've sympathized, we've taken up their cases. I as an MP remember taking up so many of their cases. Even I visited their camps in Jammu where they were, they were moved out. But the fact remains, there's only one side of the story. A big massacre of the Sikhs took place at Chatti Singhpura, the Sikh population, by the militants, but there was no Sikh migration. Why? These are questions that need to be answered. The first person to be killed by the militancy, rising militancy, is a Muslim. He is a National Conference bloc president. Even before the militancy officially took off in 1990, in December 89, our leader, CPIM leader, Muhammad Yusuf Tarigami, was attacked. His father-in-law was killed. He managed to, he escaped by a hair's breadth virtually. After that, he's been attacked twice more. So everybody has been facing this militancy and their attacks. From this, to cull out only one aspect and try to use that for rousing passions and spreading the communal divide, I think that is the greatest disservice they are doing to the country. Militancy has to be fought by Indians as a whole. Any effort to try and divide the Indians will only strengthen the militants.
Hijab controversy had come just before five state election.
Well, I've never understood this entire concept of, you see, what people wear is something that you do not regulate. Do you tell 6 students in schools not to wear the turban? Do you tell our women who would, it's not only hijab, it's not you have in various traditions of the Hindus, different sections. You have what is called the ghungat, you have what is called the choli. You have a lot of ways in which women cover their faces. Now, this has been a tradition as old as a part of our culture. And you go to anywhere in the country, north, south, everywhere. Every community or every identity of social identity, they have their own turbans. Even in the south, what used to be worn by your Trivandrum Raja, the headgear that he used to wear, and what used to be worn by your Tipu Sultan and your Karnataka Raja. All of them had their headgear. That was their identity. How does that become an issue of contention? Unless you deliberately want to make it. It is not the hijab that's the contention. It is the Muslim-Hindu divide.
If we talk about Congress, Congress weakened day by day, what would be the Congress future?
Well, that is for them to answer. That is why I said at the outset, what is required for the country today is a further strengthening of the CPIM. Because this is the only consistent force that can take on the challenge of these communal forces. All other parties, as I said in the beginning, all other parties show vacillations. But in that situation, the Congress's weakness today is something that they have to answer.
Mamata Banerjee says can't trust Congress party.
That is up to her. I don't know how many are there who can trust her party, Mamata Banerjee's party. How many are there in the country? That also is a question mark.
When we are talking about national alliance, is there any alternative possible just before election?
Before elections, a national alliance never comes about. Always, a national alliance that forms a government comes only after elections. Look at India's history and our own, our own reality. We are a country of so much diversity that it is not every single state has different political parties who have different levels of influence. So a national coalition to emerge before the elections has never happened, never possible. Even when Indira Gandhi was defeated in 77 after emergency, the Janata Party that formed the government was formed after elections. Remember, VP Singh, when he became Prime Minister, the National Front, Left Front, that combination was formed after election. Deva Gowda, when he became Prime Minister, the United Front that made him the Prime Minister, that United Front was formed after election. 98, when Vajpayee became the Prime Minister, the NDA that formed the government, that NDA was forged after election. Manmohan Singh, when he became the Prime Minister, the UPA that formed the government was forged after election. So it's always be after election. Same will happen in 2024. What will happen before election? And that is important. Is state by state, all the secular democratic forces will unite to form state level understandings, like it happened in Tamil Nadu under DMK. And depending on which is the most influential regional player in that state, and under their leadership, or it could be a national party also. In some states, it could be the national party that will be the major force, but it will be state level understandings. And on that basis of that, post-election, the national arrangement will be formed.
Left has initiated farmers' protest at national level, but when it comes to Delhi, it was a political one.
You see, it is not apolitical, but it was a conscious decision to keep the political parties out, because it was not as though it's a political battle between the government and the opposition parties. It was actually the united struggle of peasantry as a whole. Yes, the left took the initiative for 2 years before this entire thing started. In fact, it goes back to 1916, 17, 18, that period, when all these Kisan organizations, some 200 of them had come together to form the National Coordination Committee, and private member bills were moved in the parliament on the similar issues of the struggle, and that was all going on. But once these laws came, a large number of other organizations also came into the protest, and therefore it was then enlarged to be called the Sanyukt Kisan Morcha with more than 500 organizations. So you can't call that apolitical. That was no political party under whom it is working, which is good, because it reflects the entire unity of the Indian peasantry.
After farmers' protest, Aam Aadmi Party won in Punjab.
Yeah, but that has got nothing to do with the farmers' protest. Aam Aadmi Party won in Punjab because the two traditional parties, that is the Congress and the Akali Dal, the people of Punjab, these were the two major parties there. The people of Punjab lost faith in both of them.
Do you think does Aam Aadmi Party replace Congress? What is CPM stand on AAP?
You see, eventually CPM always categorizes parties on the basis of their policies. Now, what is the policies of the Aam Aadmi Party vis-a-vis neoliberalism? What is its policies regarding economic reforms that are being raised? What are its policies regarding the loot of national assets, the privatization of public sector, etc. that is going on? What are its policies regarding the new education policy, which actually tries to replace reason with unreason, rationality with irrationality, what we spoke of? All these things are still unknown. So we'll have to wait and see what it articulates. It's not actually a one-off game, politics. You play, one set of tennis and then you decide which is the winner, and that is not the way politics functions. Eventually, if you have to sustain, you may win one election, that's a different matter. But you want to sustain, you have to be clear on what is your policy direction.